Hello guys, and welcome back to another Nioh 2 build guide, and in today's video we're going to be taking a look at my Iai Assassin build, which is an advanced endgame build for single sword that focuses around unleashing as much burst damage as possible from your Iai slash, utilizing damage modifiers such as backstab damage, raging strike, self buff utility and CC abilities such as paralysis, and damage to paralyzed enemies. Now I'm considering this build as an advanced build for a few reasons. The other builds I've posted thus far are very accessible for all skill levels, and the last one in particular even offers quite a lot of cheesy variance in the sense that it's very safe and is capable of trivializing the hardest content. This build, whilst it is extremely strong, it can also be a lot more challenging to play in certain situations. Now if you're familiar with my builds, you know that one thing I prioritize is build flexibility, meaning we never over specialize. Even if we have an element to the build that makes it super broken against certain enemies, we still cover our bases in all other areas, be it with our weapon, magic, ninjutsu, yokai abilities. We never want to feel like we're unprepared in any scenario. Now, the burst damage in this build is S tier in most situations, but there are a couple of ways to play it. There is one aspect of the build that is the one-shot boss killer mode that utilizes Carnage Talisman and Raging Strike, which means your health will be drained to 1 HP whilst you're attacking, which is obviously pretty scary in itself if you don't manage to kill the enemy in time. You're capable of dying in one hit. So the other mode is your general playstyle, in which general map running, mobs, elite yokai, human bosses, etc. This will 1 to 3 shot almost anything in that category. However, against a small group of endgame bosses, yokai ones in particular, that are going to either have resistances to paralysis or backstab, or simply have unique mechanics that see them constantly shifting in and out of phases, you are going to have to adjust your playstyle to rely heavily on your skill as a player with your weapon. Granted, this should be the basic standard for players, but due to this game allowing a lot of click to win cheese builds, this is why I'm calling this an advanced build. Now to make things more comfortable, this build also includes a hell of a lot of secondary crowd control capability other than paralysis, as well as high mobility movesets on the weapon. So even if you only have your weapon to rely on, you will still feel strong and in control of the fight. So let's get started with the gear you'll be needing before taking a look at the stats and deeper areas of the build. We are running 3-piece Kingo's armor with the Ataki Sudamune Katana for the 5-piece cross sickle set bonuses of life increase, final blow damage, melee damage, but mainly backstab damage. Now on any other weapon, the Tosa set would be ideal for it, as it means you don't have to be behind the enemy to get a 15% increase to your Iai Quickdraw. However, because the sword's mystic art and skill tree paths heavily favour backstab damage, we need to utilize backstab damage anyway, so I'm fine with using Kingo's. That said, you could still use the Tosa set instead of this, combining a backstab damage with skill damage. We then have 2 pieces of Malfactor's gear in the chest piece and jewel blades for the 3-piece Profligate Sinner set bonus of melee damage to paralyzed enemy. We are then foregoing further set bonus stacking on the armor by opting for this headpiece called the Warrior Monk's Hood. It comes with the Stalwart ability, which means that at critical health our attacks cannot be interrupted unless we either die or have our key broken. Because we're mostly focusing on big damage from Iai Quickdraw, there are moments when you're going to be at low health and only need to land 1 Iai to finish the enemy. So in those situations, Stalwart will be the difference between victory or death. We of course have our Yasakani Magatama to reduce the set bonus requirements by 1, as without this we wouldn't be able to activate all of our set bonuses. On the other accessory, it's of course your personal choice. I'm running a pipe accessory that comes with a fixed stat of key increase. We're also running the Warrior of the West bow for life increase on the 2-piece set bonus and a second range weapon of your personal choice. I run a Raven Wing rifle for the 2-piece set bonus of life drain on bullseye. So let's take a look at the stats on our gear. On our main weapon we have an optional inheritable of melee key damage, imbue paralysis, Iai Quickdraw damage, paralysis accumulation. As mentioned, this build is going to be utilizing paralysis to lock an enemy in place, then unleash big Iai burst damage boosted by damage to paralyzed enemies and backstab damage. My secondary and ranged weapons haven't been optimized as they mostly serve as a set bonus stick, same for the ranged weapons. So on our headpiece we have key increase, elemental damage reduction on guard, toughness and an inheritable of life increase. On our chest piece, untouched ninjutsu, as we are using some ninjutsu on this build, toughness, damage reduction at critical, and an inheritable of life increase. On the gloves, toughness, defense, attack increase, an optional roll of elixir efficacy, and an inheritable of untouched ninjutsu. On the waist, dodge key consumption, running speed, life increase, and an inheritable of toughness. On the legs, dodge key consumption at critical, tenacity, which is essential to the one-shot mode of this build, because if you choose to play that way, you're using a Carnage Talisman and Raging Strike, which will drain your health as you attack to 1 HP. If you don't have tenacity, you will die. Tenacity is what limits your life drain to 1 HP. This is essential if you're using Raging Strike. We also have Winded Recovery, Running Speed, and an inheritable of Toughness. On our accessories, we want the same stats on both, which is going to be melee damage to paralyzed enemies, as well as paralysis accumulation. Elemental damage taken is optional, but I find elemental damage is a lot harder to avoid in this game than physical damage. I'm also running life, but you might want to run untouched ninjutsu. I find I'm able to kill most things before my ninjutsu runs out, but untouched ninjutsu is great because sometimes you're going to miss or mess up your ninjutsu, and untouched ninjutsu can really be a lifesaver in those situations. So let's get into the meat of the build by taking a look at the Spirit Guardian and Soul Cores. So without a doubt, we want Itokuri. Now just a heads up, both this and the Malefactor's armor, you need to complete the mission Master of 3 Evils. In order to unlock this mission, you need to have gained a certain amount of proficiency with dual swords. If you haven't done that, it doesn't take long. Just grab some dual swords and beat on some high level enemies for an hour and you'll get it. So the Itokuri is going to give us an anima charge bonus on accumulative damage, 40 increase to luck, but most importantly imbue paralysis on yokai abilities and paralysis accumulation. It also has anima charge on active skill use. For the Soul Cores, in your lower slot that you probably just use for passive skills, you want a Karakasa Umbrella, which increases paralysis accumulation. I was also lucky to get a roll of anima bonus to paralyzed enemies, which in combination with my other anima modifiers allows me to really spam my yokai abilities if I want to. For my main yokai ability, I have Yatsu no Kami. It's no secret that this snake is one of the strongest yokai abilities in the game alongside Otakimaru. I chose the snake for a couple of reasons. Firstly, Otakimaru was used in my last build, and also aesthetically it's more magical, whereas the snake just seems more fitting to the playstyle. However, there is a practical reason in that Yatsu comes with anima charge, and I have an inheritable of anima alongside the fact that this ability hits in 2 waves, does great damage, applies paralysis due to our Spirit Guardian, does knockback so serves as a great panic button, and also has a low cost both as a core and in ability cost over Otakimaru. For my last Soul Core, it's entirely optional. I suggest grabbing something that has great bonus rolls. I decided to take Magatsu as it increases our skill damage by 2%, so again applicable to our Iai Quickdraw. Another increase to anima charge on accumulative damage, and I got great secondary rolls of attack and defense increase. Secondary stats I'd advise you to look out for are yokai ability damage. Anything relating to paralysis, super efficient yokai abilities is another good one. Anything related to anima charge really. Now for my second Spirit Guardian, I had a real hard time picking something. Ideally there would be a Spirit Guardian with back damage, which was the main spirit that everyone used in Nioh 1. Maybe one will come in the DLC, I don't know, but for now I just opted for Rokugizo the elephant for a plus 10 to toughness and anima charge on active skills. In regard to the toughness, remember we're running toughness on every piece of armor too, and that's going to mitigate the key damage we receive when we're hit, and it's also going to add to our poise. Now we're still not going to be able to poise through those big hits unless we're at critical health. However, small hits from weak enemies should be able to be poised through with our Iai Quickdraw due to the amount of toughness we have. So let's take a look at the core stats. Now my stats are a bit all over the place due to build testing, but don't worry, I'm going to explain simply what you need in order to be optimized. Obviously, as this is end game, you're going to need to be around level 200 for this to work optimally. The first thing I do is put 10 points in everything, then I put points into what is required on my gear, accessories and Spirit Guardian in order to activate all their bonuses. So make sure you check all of those before applying your points. Once that's done, I need to reach B agility rating. By looking at the current encumbrance stat, we need to be at 70% or lower to reach B agility. I put points into stamina until I reach 70%, which then turns the text green, meaning we have reached B agility. This allows us better key management and mobility. From there, I max out my main attribute. In this case, for single sword, we want heart, so 99 points in there. Then we put points into magic and dexterity for our jutsus. For the amount of jutsu I'm using in Onmyo and Ninjutsu, around 20 in each is enough. You can put a bit less or you can put a bit more, depending on how many items you want to carry. I then focus on our secondary scaling stat, in this case skill, but rather than just dump everything into skill, I put a large amount in until I start seeing soft caps, which aren't really soft caps, but for the sake of simplicity, when you see a diminishing return in the amount of damage increase you're receiving from each point, so like sometimes you'll get 3 points, then 2 points, and then 1 point, then I start individually placing points into the other stats where I see an increase in something I want. Before we get into the skill trees, I'll just give you a simplified overview of the jutsu we're carrying. So for our ninjutsu, we have both Medusa powders and paralysis shuriken. For general enemies, 1 powder or 1 to 2 shurikens is enough to proc paralysis. On bosses, 1 powder followed up by a shuriken should be enough to proc it fast. I carry 5 powders and 10 shurikens, and this would depend on how many points in dex you have and if your powders and shurikens are upgraded in the skill tree. This will probably also depend on whether you've chosen to take untouched ninjutsu on your accessories. I also carry a single quick change scroll to apply before boss encounters. For our Onmyo then, Carnage Talisman, this is what I apply before boss encounters as part of the one-shot strategy, which isn't literally one shot, but you know, killing a boss in like 3 EIE slashes. This is in combination with Raging Strike from the shifting tree alongside all of your other damage modifiers and is what's going to destroy bosses, but also make it so that you're incredibly vulnerable if you get hit. You can of course always hybridize the playstyle to not use Raging Strike, instead switching Raging Strike out for a damage increase based on your heart attribute, and then use Carnage Talisman anyway, though I think most people will want to run either one or the other of the extremes. Either you're going to go for one shot mode, or it's a fight where you know you're going to need to survive for a while, in which case you're probably going to forego the Carnage Talisman as well. For the next item, it depends if you're versus human bosses or endgame yokai bosses. For human bosses and playing Raging Strike, definitely take Weakness Talisman. The rotation here will be Knockdown, Medusa Powder, Weakness Talisman, and then another Medusa Powder to repower on Wake Up, and then swiftly position behind into Iai spam. You want to be fast when getting into position, as Weakness doesn't last long, but long enough for your first big hit. When fighting those final tier yokai bosses, or for general play away from Raging Strike, replace Weakness Talisman with Guardian Spirit Talisman. Guardian Spirit Talisman is our major crowd control ability. It makes use of our Spirit Guardian, which in this case is a spider, so we're going to send out little spiders that are not only going to stagger the enemy, making it fantastic for getting up Medusa Powder or getting a heal in, or even an Iai slash off, but it will also shoot out webs that will then slow the target, acting as a free slot talisman. It also applies a debuff that I believe is saturated status, but I can't quite remember. Either way, this is an extremely powerful utility. Arch Yokai Talisman, another pre-fight buff that increases our anima charge, allowing us to spam our snakes, and Blessed Bolt Talisman, which is optional. It basically serves as an opener on human enemies. You know how at the start of a fight with a human you can headshot them with a ranged weapon in order to get free knockdown? Well, this does that. It automatically targeting a weak point and firing a magical arrow. It's also useful in situations in long missions where you might run out of ammo, and you can use this to get a ranged shot in on something. So let's take a look at the skill trees. In the sword tree, you of course want Iai Quickdraw 3. You also want Flowing Shadow. Flowing Shadow is the skill you're going to use when you don't have an opportunity to Iai slash, as you can throw this out instantly. It will position you behind the target, do 3 slash attacks for decent damage and status application, but also it can transition directly into Iai Quickdraw if you time it with your key pulse. So instead of key pulsing from this move, you just Iai Quickdraw, which serves as a key pulse as well because you're pressing R1 to enter the Iai Quickdraw animation. You also want Swift Step. This is invaluable at both transitioning between defense and offense, allowing you to attack, move behind the target and continue the attack, but also because we're focused on backstab damage, this positions you behind the enemy, allowing you to follow up with an Iai slash if you have time or a strong attack. You of course want the Shadow Strike skills for backstab damage increase. For defensive utility against human enemies in mid stance, I have both Backwave 2 and Haze 2, which are your deflection and parries. For our Mystic Art, we of course want Sword of Execution and increased damage when attacking enemies from behind. Now, take note of something. This alongside another thing we're yet to mention, heavily increases backstab damage. In all the footage you saw at the beginning of the video, I didn't have this or the other thing activated. The reason for this is I'm an idiot and I didn't realize until reaching this portion of the video, so having this activated will allow you to do even more damage than you saw in the montage. Remember, after you purchase this skill, you then have to set it so that it's activated, you know, so that you see that it says set on big red letters. Don't make the same stupid mistake as me. In the Samurai skill tree, obviously you want Flux 2 and Damage Boost to Heart. Ignore the fact that it's missing on my skill tree, I was just changing some things around earlier today. You're going to want this for the second playstyle, which is the safe version. So instead of running Raging Strike on Iai Quickdraw, you'll be using this on that skill instead. That way you can do massive damage without draining your own life. Obviously have your running water skills, maybe grab Damage Booster skill as well. In the Shifting tree, grab Leechkin, it's going to help heal on yokai abilities. Special Finesse Focus is great too for yokai ability damage after burst counters, Earth Fade and Dragon Vein for anime increase. I like things that give me health and key back from my burst counters, so Special Finesse Refresh 2 and Special Finesse Recuperate 3 are enough for me. For long missions, Curative Cause 2 is a nice amount of health to get back on a Soul Core drop, but the most important thing is of course Raging Strike. This is fundamental to the one-shot aspect of the build, increasing the damage of certain skills, in this case attaching it to your Iai slash, and it will do 20% more damage, with the slight repercussion of it draining your entire health bar to 1 HP and 3 slashes. So if you're going to run this mode, please make sure you have tenacity rolled on your armor. Don't say I didn't warn you. Now remember I mentioned that there were 2 things missing during my gameplay that massively increased backstab damage, one of which was the Mystic Art. Well, the second thing was the clan. So for all these videos I was in the same clan, which was House Todo, for the benefits of wearing heavy armor, as I was making a lot of build videos wearing heavy armor. I never changed my clan due to constantly changing builds. However, there are 2 clans that you definitely want to utilize in order to get the most out of this build. One is the Honda clan that at max rank will will increase your skill damage by 28%. The other is the Ariki clan that will give a massive increase to backstab damage at max rank, the base of which will start at around 7%. But also at base you have plus 40 luck in critical, which you will always be in when killing an enemy in one-shot mode because it drains your health. Imagine the damage you saw at the beginning of the video with roughly 40% extra damage on initial Iai Quickdraw. Yeah. Anyway, that's the build, guys. If I've forgotten anything, please tell me down in the comments, or feel free to ask about anything else and I'll try my best to reply to you directly. Plenty more build videos are on the way, so stay tuned for those. You are also welcome to recommend any weapon or build you'd like to see me cover next. I'm streaming over on Twitch and posting regularly on Instagram. If either of those are your thing, just search Xenoswarm on the relevant platforms. Links will also be provided in the description. If you like this video, hit the thumbs up as that really helps me out, and if you're not already subscribed, consider doing so for more Nioh 2 content coming soon. Okay guys, take care.